So with Halloween Ends now officially in the history books, this is it. The final movie within the trilogy of Blumhouse has now officially been released, and this review is going to contain a lot of spoilers for the film, as of course the movie is now out in theaters and on Peacock, in which right off the gate this movie is divisive from start to finish. So again, if you're a Halloween fan and you have your preferences, that is okay. If you love the movie, that's fine. If you hate the film, that is okay too, because right off the gate I want to start off by saying that it is now official. Michael Myers, the once known boogeyman from the original 1978 Halloween film, is dead. And so this in and of itself can be very, very divisive, because throughout the movie Michael Myers was in a very vulnerable state, which I want to give my first piece of criticism for this film, and that is to suggest that Michael Myers should never, ever be placed in any situation where he is vulnerable. And I would dare say that this is one of the very few instances, perhaps ever, that we've ever seen Michael Myers this vulnerable and this weakened in the film. Now, if you pay close enough attention in the film, after Michael Myers begins to take victim after victim after victim, upon having to claim his first victim, Michael Myers is very weakened. He can't seem to walk and function properly. Obviously, all of the wounds sustained during the events of Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills are now catching up to him. So when Michael Myers claims his first victim in this film, and you see Michael Myers actually kill the very first person in this movie, I want you guys to pay attention to his body, because it looks like he's getting some sort of a sensation, and it's almost as though he's getting a new breath of life be bestowed within him, because he's rejuvenating himself. If you pay close enough attention, every time he seems to kill a new person, he seems to be getting stronger, he seems to be moving a lot better. So it's kind of confirmed that Michael gets his quote powers, and I use that term very loosely, upon having to kill people, because it is assumed that Michael Myers had not killed anyone in approximately just about 4 years, not counting animals that he was probably eating in the sewer just to stay alive. So we understand also, courtesy of a newspaper, that following the events of Halloween Kills, Michael Myers' house was in fact demolished. So where did Michael hide out this entire time? In the sewer. And what this movie did well was present an element to us that suggests that there is going to be potentially a new killer down the line, only for them to ruin it. Why did they end up killing Corey in this film is beyond me, especially if they went as far as to give Corey inarguably the most screen time outside of perhaps maybe Allison and Laurie in this film, which when you stop and think about it, Corey had more screen time than anybody else, including Michael Myers, who basically sat back throughout this entire film and just allowed for Corey to do what he did. Now, Corey in and of itself is a character that a lot of people can relate to, because can you imagine being in Corey's position to where you're constantly being blamed for a situation and or an incident that you never had anything to do with in the first place, right? You're constantly being harassed, you're constantly being looked at as a monster, you're constantly being bullied, physically assaulted, and you can kind of resonate with Corey's character a bit, because you can kind of understand that he was at least trying to do the best within his own ability to kind of try to be a good person within his own community, but inadvertently his own community ended up creating a monster in which they ultimately had to suffer from once Corey had gone about and murdering the people that had wronged him. Now, is this the worst Halloween film? In my opinion, absolutely not. Did we all forget about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2? You know what I mean? So there's that. And of course, in which in my opinion, there's Halloween Resurrection. So then of course there's that. So is this movie the best within the Blumhouse trilogy? No, I prefer Halloween 2018, followed by, I think this is sort of somewhere near, maybe equal to Halloween Kills. It's kind of hard to say right now, but by no means is this the greatest Halloween film in all of history, but by no means is this the worst either. But it is a movie where you kind of get those Rian Johnson feels from the Star Wars Last Jedi film, in which we saw how J.J. Abrams went as far as to create The Force Awakens, in which here comes Rian Johnson following that to mess everything up with The Last Jedi, and then of course we had the abomination that was Rise of Skywalker. But you know, that's essentially what this felt like, in a sense to where it almost kind of felt to me that David Gordon Green was not behind this film, but instead it was Rian Johnson. And the reason for that was because they made a lot of choices in this film that were very bold, very different, and different doesn't necessarily mean bad, but this film in and of itself is exactly what Jamie Lee Curtis had wanted ever since the events of Halloween H2O. We know the story of how Jamie Lee Curtis wanted to kill off Michael originally during H2O, and Mustafa Akkad and the powers that be said psych, bait and switch, and so then we had Resurrection. Curtis didn't want to be a part of it. She thought that everything was abysmal. She wanted to be the one to end Michael Myers, and so now she finally did, right? And it's not as though she just ended him just to end him. No, they put him through a machine grinder, through like a meat grinder, right? So Michael's body, in an essence, is just completely destroyed. However, there is one very big part of the film that I think a lot of people really need to pay attention to, and that was the ending when Laurie had mentioned in her memoir that evil really doesn't ever die, but instead it ends up changing its shape per se. Now, at the end of the film, we get to see this. As of course you guys can see, Michael Myers' mask was never destroyed. Why is this important? Well, we saw that in the film once we had a very awkward moment, mind you, where Corey ran up on Michael and bodied Michael and dropped him down onto the ground just to get his mask. Once Corey Cunningham had that mask, something within him actually changed, right? So one would only assume that perhaps maybe if they were to continue the Halloween franchise, that whoever is to possess this mask is going to essentially garner similar kind of feats to that of Corey and Michael, only because the mask was the only thing in this film that was not destroyed. Corey, dead. Michael, gone. Allison, she moved out of Haddonfield. Laurie, her chapter is done, and all that remains in Haddonfield is the once known boogeyman's mask that lies on Laurie's desk. So what the meta suggests here is that evil can ultimately resurface once again, and make no mistake about it, if someone else gets inspired by Michael Myers or similar to Corey, they end up snapping. All they really need to do, in my opinion, is find and locate that mask, obtain it, put it on, and something within you will change. And I think that throughout the film, we saw how Corey's humanity was slowly beginning to leave his body, only because he was also putting this into question by asking Allison, hey, something's going on with me. I don't know what's happening to me. Ever since Michael grabbed him, Michael saw something within Corey, assumingly, of course, killing a kid, maybe kind of sharing a similar viewpoint in a sense where Michael felt the rage and pain coming from him just as he felt, right? So Michael, for whatever reason, ends up sparing Corey. Corey ends up freaking out, and ever since Michael grabbed him, Corey just seemed to have like this fixation of always going back to the sewer to kind of either feed Michael more people to kill so he can watch Michael grow stronger, which he did, or either for them to go out sort of like a duo to kill together, in which they also did. But I don't think I've ever seen a Halloween film where Michael actually takes interest in another person only to kind of keep them alive, to kind of mentor them. That was completely different, which I never expected to see. But you don't want to piss off Michael by taking his mask, in which Corey did, and so by the end, once Michael found him, he went as far as to snap Corey's neck, even though Corey was dying anyway because of a self-inflicted wound and gunshots by Laurie Strode. So Corey had it coming by the end anyway, but at the same time, I would much rather prefer, and this may be a stretch, in which if they were to include another killer, I would much rather prefer to have someone like Corey, who by now is already established courtesy of Halloween Ends, instead of just getting potentially maybe some rando in another film, which again needs to be established just like everybody else in order for people to care about that character. So they built up Corey Cunningham throughout the entire film, for whatever reason, only to kill him off by the end. It was a weird choice and decision to make, but the final fight with Michael and Laurie was cool. I just honest to God wish that it was dragged out a bit more, because even though Michael was in a very vulnerable state, again, in which he never should be because he was weakened, Laurie was also vulnerable because it's not as though she had a trap house to actually be in. She was just in a normal kitchen. But even then, I really do wish we had more of a car crash kind of battle in which both characters really gave it their all to actually kill the other, in which almost kind of happened, which I would have preferred, because in my personal opinion, I think that you can do Halloween without Laurie Strode, but by keeping Michael. However, I personally don't think that you can continue Halloween by keeping Laurie Strode, but not having Michael Myers, you know what I mean? But at least they reigned true with the title, because this is the end of Halloween, or at least the main story that ties in from the original continuity from 1978 involving Laurie, because Jamie Lee Curtis is done playing the role as Laurie Strode. Michael Myers was thrown into a meat grinder Allison left and Corey is dead. So the question now remains, what is next? Now, of course, we do understand that this is not the final Halloween film in its franchise. This is the final movie within Blumhouse's rights to have it, which again begs the question, where do we go from here? Who is going to obtain the rights? And if they make more Halloween films, are we going to see maybe a sequel to Halloween Ends, a sequel to Halloween Resurrection, maybe a reboot starting all the way back from scratch just like Rob Zombie, or are we going to see a sequel to maybe one of the other films kind of suggesting to create its own timeline to say, hey, this movie is going to be a movie in which takes place after the events of Halloween 5, after the events of Halloween 2, but with our own spin, you know what I mean? So the possibilities, I think, are endless. I believe also that in this film, the meta, in which I do believe there was a lot of, does not belong in a Halloween film, nor in a horror movie, I think, at all, because when you start including subliminal messages, when you start including certain elements where it may get a little political in a sense, it just doesn't really work for a movie like this, you know what I mean? In which to say, I really did enjoy this film. I actually had fun watching it, but I was extremely disappointed with two things. Number one, Michael Myers dying without taking somebody of importance with him, for example, Laurie Strode, but at the same time as well, seeing Michael at a very, very, very weakened state. I would dare argue to say that if we were to make Halloween Ends with the version of Michael Myers that we saw in Halloween Kills, Michael Myers would have slaughtered everybody in Halloween Ends, no question about it. Why? Because he killed a bajillion people in Halloween Kills, and we know and we see how that fuels him. And so when you slaughter 10 bajillion people and that's all you have to thrive off of, Michael Myers was essentially indestructible no matter what you did, whereas here, he wasn't doing anything, assumingly, for 4 years, eating rats, eating cats, eating dogs in the sewer. So his very first kill, courtesy of Corey bringing someone down there to him, kind of rejuvenized him in a sense, right? So what I will say though about this film is that this movie is a massive, massive success, a massive W, a massive victory for the character of Dr. Loomis. If Donald Pleasance was around, rest in paradise Donald Pleasance, Donald Pleasance's character of Dr. Loomis would have been so proud, because evil needs to die. In his memoirs, in his messages, to whoever was able to hear his voice, Dr. Loomis always said, Michael Myers the man, who is no longer a man, needs to be terminated. He needs to be destroyed. There is no out of it. You got to destroy him. You have to dismember, burn, do whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that it dies. And in fact, in this movie, Michael Myers, has in fact died, and I think that Dr. Loomis would have been very, very happy to hear or even see that, in which that was one of the biggest disappointing factors about this film, was not even getting an inkling of just hearing anyone say, you know what, that was for Dr. Loomis. That would have been so amazing to even Laurie say to Michael before slitting his throat, because that's what she did, to look Myers dead in the face and say, you know what, this is not only for all of the people you've destroyed and the families you've harmed, but this is also for Dr. Loomis. And then from there, to slit his throat or do whatever it is that you need to do. I think that that would have been amazing, but needless to say, not the worst Halloween film in my opinion. I had fun. Very questionable things that happened, very bold decisions that were made. Of course, like I just said, not the best, not the worst. Among the trilogy, I don't know where it ranks between Halloween Ends and Halloween Kills yet, but among the trilogy, the three films, Halloween 2018 is still the better film. So again, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below about Halloween Ends. Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys love it? Did you guys kind of find it to be in the middle? Let me know what you all think down in the comment section below. Again, thank you all so much for watching. If you guys are new to the channel, then I do encourage you all to go on over and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications by clicking on the bell icon. That way you guys never miss a single video that is posted onto this channel. Again, also, give this video a big fat thumbs up right now by smashing that like button if you guys enjoyed, and I'll be seeing each and every single one of you down in the comment section below and in the next video. Take it easy, everybody, and have a great day. Peace!